The Varkan armada moved through the darkness of space like a swarm of metal locusts. There were thousands of ships, big and small, covered in sharp silver armor. They blocked the light of the distant stars. At the front of this huge fleet was the Conqueror's Might, the largest ship ever built by the Varkan Empire. Commander Vrak stood on the bridge. He was tall, with green skin and black eyes that looked like hard stones. He watched the main screen in front of him. On the screen, a small blue and white planet grew larger and larger. It was Earth. Vrak smiled, but it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a hunter who had caught a slow animal. He looked at the data floating next to the screen. The information came from old galactic archives. It said that Earth was a Type 0.7 planet. This meant the people there were still very primitive. They used fire and simple engines. They fought wars with each other over pieces of land. They did not have faster-than-light travel. To Vrak, Earth looked like an easy meal. It was a rich world full of water and resources, guarded by weak children. "Scan the surface," Vrak ordered. His voice was deep and echoed in the quiet room. A younger officer at a control panel typed quickly. "Scanning, Commander. No shields detected. No large energy weapons in orbit. The planet is quiet." Vrak nodded. "They do not even know we are here. They are looking at the stars, dreaming of traveling, but they cannot even leave their own moon." He walked to the center of the room. "Tell me, why has this planet been ignored for so long?" The officer looked confused. "The archives say that many races passed by, sir. None of them stopped. There is no record of anyone attacking." Vrak laughed. "Because it is too easy. Powerful empires want a challenge, not a rock that belongs to monkeys." He clenched his fist. "But we are the Varkan. We do not care about honor. We care about resources." He thought about the riches on the blue planet. Water, trees, metals, and millions of slaves to work in the Varkan mines. He decided he would take it all in one day. He wanted to be the one who finally added Earth to the empire. "Prepare the decapitation strike," Vrak said. "Fire the kinetic rods at their major cities. We will break their spirit before we even land." The ship hummed with power. Massive metal rods, shaped like spears, dropped from the bottom of the Conqueror's Might. They fell toward the atmosphere, moving faster than sound. They were aimed at the biggest human cities. The Varkans watched their screens, waiting for the bright flashes of explosions. They expected to see fire and fear, but that is not what happened. Down on the surface of the planet, hidden deep under a mountain range, was a secret base. It was buried under miles of rock, safe from everything. Inside this base, the lights were low. The air was cool. Technology that looked like magic lined the walls. Noah sat in a comfortable chair in front of a large holographic table. He was a human male with dark hair and tired eyes. He wore a simple black uniform. He did not look like a soldier. He looked like a man waiting for a bus. Standing next to him was Grace. She was a woman with sharp features and eyes that missed nothing. She watched the holographic map of the sky above Earth. Red dots appeared, the Varkan kinetic rods falling from space. "They are early," Noah said, taking a sip of water. "I thought they would scan us for another hour." "They are arrogant," Grace replied softly. "They see a primitive planet and they rush to take it. They didn't even check for traps." Noah sighed. "It is always the same. They come, they see, and they get greedy." He looked at the red dots getting closer to the atmosphere. "Are the arrays ready?" "Ready and waiting," Grace said. "We have been simulating this for 50 years, Noah. We know exactly what to do." "Good," Noah said. He put his glass down. "Let's introduce them to the real Earth." High in the upper atmosphere, the Varkan rods were just seconds away from hitting the cities. Suddenly, the sky above the planet changed. It didn't turn red or explode. It turned a calm, smooth blue. An invisible web of energy snapped into place around the entire planet. It was a shield, but not like the heavy shields used in space battles. It was a complex interference field. The kinetic rods hit this energy web. There was no sound in space, but if there had been, it would have been a soft fizz. The metal rods didn't bounce off. They didn't explode. They simply vanished. One moment they were there, and the next, they were turned into harmless dust that floated away on the solar wind, on the bridge of the Conqueror's might. The cheering stopped. The officers stared at their screens with their mouths open. The rods are gone, Commander, the tactical officer whispered. Target cities report no impact. No damage. Vrock leaned forward, his hands gripping the rail until his knuckles turned white. What do you mean, gone? Did they miss? No, sir. They were on a direct path. They just disappeared. Energies. Vrock shouted, Show me the energy readings. The officer tried, but the screen just showed static. I can't, sir. The interference is too high. The atmosphere is singing, Commander. The air itself is generating a counter-frequency. On the surface, Noah watched the map. The red dots were gone. They use kinetic weapons, Grace said, sounding bored. Cheap and heavy. They thought we couldn't stop bullets. Lazy, Noah said. He stood up and stretched. Now they are confused. That is the dangerous part. Confusion leads to panic, and panic leads to mistakes. What are your orders? Grace asked. Noah looked at the silver fleet hanging in orbit above them. He felt a familiar weight on his shoulders. For thousands of years, humanity had played dead. They had hidden their true power, pretending to be weak so that advanced races would leave them alone. But sometimes the curiosity of the predators was too much. Tell the automated defense grid to wake up, Noah said. Target their engines. Don't destroy them yet. Just cripple them. Grace nodded and typed the command into the console. And the ground troops? Let them come, Noah said, a cold look in his eyes. We need to show them why the archives are empty. We need to show them that the silence wasn't peace. It was a trap. Up in space, Vrock was losing his patience. Fear was creeping into his heart, but he pushed it away. He refused to believe that a planet of farmers could stop the Varkan Empire. It is a trick, Vrock yelled to his crew. They have a shield generator hidden somewhere. Find it, destroy it. Send the dropships? I want soldiers on the ground now. If we cannot bombard them from above, we will crush them below. Hundreds of small ships launched from the Varkan carriers. They sped toward the planet filled with angry alien soldiers. They thought they were going to fight primitive humans with simple guns. They did not know that Noah and Grace were waiting for them. They did not know that Earth was not a helpless victim. It was a sleeping dragon, and it was just waking up. Noah looked at the incoming swarm on his screen. Grace, he said quietly. It's time to stop pretending. Activating protocol welcome wagon, she replied. The ground began to shake, not from earthquakes, but from massive machinery rising from beneath the soil. The hunt was about to begin. The Varkans had asked the wrong question. They asked why nobody survived attacking Earth. Soon they would find out the terrifying answer. They were not invading a planet. They were walking into a cage. And the humans were not the prey. The Varkan dropships descended toward the blue planet, like heavy stones falling into a deep ocean. Inside each metal shell, hundreds of alien soldiers checked their weapons. They wore thick gray armor that made them look like large insects. They were not afraid. They had fought on many worlds, and they had always won. They looked at the monitors showing the green and brown land below them. They saw forests, oceans, and cities. They saw no defenses, no missiles flying up to meet them. They assumed the humans were hiding. Shaking in fear, Commander Vrock watched from the safety of the Conqueror's might in high orbit. He was still angry about the disappearing kinetic rods, but he was confident. His logic was simple. A planet that could hide behind a shield did not have the power to fight back. He believed Earth was like a turtle hiding inside its shell. All he had to do was crack the shell. Send the drones, Vrock ordered. I want eyes on the ground before the troops land. Target the large land mass to the west. Hundreds of small spherical drones dropped from the underside of the capital ships. They zoomed toward the atmosphere, their cameras recording everything. They passed through the clouds, expecting to see clear video feeds. But as soon as the drones touched the cloud layer, the screens on the bridge turned to static. "Report," Vrock demanded. "The sensors are blind." "Commander," the communications officer said, his voice shaking slightly. "The atmosphere is thick with interference. It is not normal radiation. It is almost like a fog." "Fog?" Vrock laughed bitterly. "You are afraid of weather?" Down in the secret bunker, Noah stood in front of a massive wall of screens. He watched the red dots of the alien drones and ships blinking on the map. Beside him, Grace was typing quickly on a flat, glass keyboard. The air in the bunker hummed with energy. "They are entering the exclusion zone now," Grace said. She didn't look up. Her fingers moved across the keys with practiced speed. "The biological aerosols are active." "Good," Noah said. "Let's see how their armor handles Earth's immune system." The Varkan dropships broke through the cloud layer. The pilots looked down, expecting to see targets. Instead, they saw a strange, thick mist rising up from the ground. It was not the white mist of morning water, VA. It was faintly green and smelled of ozone and strange spices. The mist did not just sit there. It moved. It flowed like a living river, reaching up to caress the ship's dot inside the lead dropship. The pilot tried to pull up. "Control is sluggish," he muttered. "The air is too thick." The dropships landed in open fields and near the ruins of old cities. The ramp doors lowered and the Varkan soldiers rushed out. They held their plasma rifles ready. They expected to see human armies waiting for them. They saw no one. The only movement was the strange green mist swirling around their metal boots. "Sector clear," one squad leader reported over the radio. "It is quiet. Too quiet." They began to march into the forest. The trees looked normal, but as the aliens walked past, the leaves seemed to turn toward them. Silence hung over the woods. There were no birds singing. There were no insects buzzing. The nature of Earth had gone quiet, waiting. Suddenly, a soldier stopped. "My arm," he said. He tapped the metal plate on his shoulder. "It is vibrating." His commander looked over. "Stop imagining things. Keep moving." But then another soldier dropped his rifle with a clatter. He looked at his hands. The gray metal of his gauntlets was changing color. It was turning orange, then brown. It was rusting, but it was not normal rust. It was happening fast, right in front of their eyes. The metal was pitting and flaking away like dry paper. "What is this?" the commander shouted. He aimed his weapon at a tree, but the trigger crumbled under his finger. The gun fell to the ground, dissolving into a pile of red dust. Panic began to spread through the Varkan ranks. They tried to call their ships, but their radios only hissed. They tried to run back to the dropships, but the ships were not safe anymore. The landing gear had melted into sludge. The metal skins of the ships were bubbling. High above, Vrock was watching his drone footage. He had managed to get a signal back for a few seconds before the drone died. What he saw terrified him. He didn't see humans fighting. He saw his ships being eaten by the air. "Pull them back." Vrock screamed. "All units return to orbit immediately." But it was too late. The mist was not just fog. It was a weapon. Humanity had spent centuries altering the microscopic life of the planet. They had engineered bacteria and spores that loved silicon and alien metals. It was a biological defense system. To the humans, the air was safe. To the Varkans, the atmosphere was acid. In the bunker, Grace pointed to a screen. "Heart rates are spiking." "They are panicking." Noah nodded. "Fear makes them careless." "Show me the toxicity levels." "Critical," Grace replied. "The spores are eating their suit seals." "The atmosphere inside their armor is next." Noah watched the thermal cameras. The Varkan soldiers were not dying from bullets. They were dying because their environment was rejecting them. They were suffocating. The very air they breathed was attacking their lungs. "Do you think they understand now?" Noah asked quietly. "I don't think so," Grace said. "Their commander is angry. He thinks we are poisoning them." Noah smiled a cold, humorless smile. We are not poisoning them. We are just digesting them. On the surface, a few Varkan soldiers managed to get their emergency thrusters working. They blasted up from the ground, trying to escape the green mist. They shot up into the sky, leaving their dissolving weapons behind. They thought they were safe once they reached the cold air of the upper atmosphere, but Noah had prepared for that too. Target the stragglers, Noah said to the room. Use the gravity pulses. Grace pressed a single button. Invisible ripples shot out from hidden towers on the ground. These ripples distorted gravity. The escaping Varkan soldiers suddenly found themselves weighing 10 times their normal weight. Their engines groaned and failed. They fell like stones, dropping back into the waiting fog. OK watched in horror as his soldiers died one by one. He lost contact with the entire invasion force. 10,000 warriors gone in 10 minutes. And he hadn't seen a single human enemy. He slammed his fist onto his console. Cowards! They fight like ghosts. He looked at the blue planet below. It was beautiful and terrifying. He realized his mistake. He had thought he was attacking a primitive world. He had walked into a predator's nest. Evasive action, Vrock ordered, his voice shaking. Move the fleet higher. We need to get out of this gravity well. But as the Varkan ships tried to move, the space around them seemed to shimmer. It was not the natural darkness of space. It was a camouflage field dropping. Noah stood up and walked to the large window in the bunker. He couldn't see the sky, but he knew what was happening. He turned to Grace. The enemy has realized this is not a war they can win with guns, Noah said. They are trying to run. Should we let them? Grace asked. No, Noah said. They came to our home. They need to learn the lesson. Deploy the starfighters. It is time to show them who we really are. Grace nodded and sent the signal. All across Earth, hidden doors in the sides of mountains slid open. Hidden silos under the oceans ejected their payloads. Humanity had been pretending to be weak for a long time. They had hidden their best weapons in plain sight. Vrock saw the new readings on his screen. Shields up, he yelled. Something is launching. But it wasn't missiles. It was hundreds of small, sleek black shapes. They moved with a grace that the clumsy Varkan ships could not match. They were human starfighters, piloted by men and women who had trained for this moment their entire lives. The trap had been sprung. Now, the real fight would begin. The Varkan fleet floated in the darkness above Earth, confused and damaged. Commander Vrock stood on his bridge, watching the main tactical screen. He felt a cold sweat on his green skin. His invasion force had vanished. The silence from the planet was loud. It was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of a deep ocean before a storm. Commander, the tactical officer shouted. We have multiple contacts appearing out of nowhere. It is impossible. Vrock looked at the screen. The space around Earth was tearing open. Hundreds of jagged tears in reality appeared, glowing with blue light. Through these tears, small black ships emerged. They were not big like the Varkan cruisers. They were sleek, sharp, and fast. They moved like swallows, darting and turning with impossible speed. Identify the ships, Vrock ordered, his voice tight. They do not match any known design, the officer said, fear in his voice. But their energy signatures they are off the charts. One of those small fighters has more power output than our medium frigates. Vrock gripped the railing of the command deck until his hands hurt. He could not believe it. The archive said Earth was primitive. The archive said they used fire and simple rockets. These ships had technology that rivaled the oldest races in the galaxy. Fire on them, Vrock roared. Destroy them all? The Varkan fleet turned its massive guns toward the small black fighters. The Varkans believed in big guns and heavy armor. They fired massive beams of red plasma. The beams crossed the void of space, aiming to crush the small gnats buzzing around them, but the human ships did not fly in straight lines. They spun, they rolled, and they seemed to know where the Varkan guns would aim before the Varkans even pulled the trigger. It was like the human pilots could read the future. Inside the cockpit of the lead fighter, a man named Leo sat calmly. He wore a helmet that covered his face, connected directly to his brain. He did not use a joystick or pedals. He thought, and the ship moved. The neural link was perfect. He was not just flying the ship. He was the ship. Fox 3, Leo said quietly, a small missile shot from his wing. It did not fly straight at the enemy cruiser. It corkscrewed through space, dodging the Varkan point defense fire. It slammed into the engine of a massive Varkan destroyer. There was no explosion of fire in the vacuum of space. Instead, the destroyer just broke apart. The metal twisted and snapped like dry twigs. The engine core destabilized and vanished, leaving the ship dead in the water. In the bunker deep underground, Noah watched the battle on the holographic table. The blue dots representing human ships were dancing circles around the red Varkan dots. "How are they doing, Grace?" Noah asked. Grace stood next to him, her eyes scanning the data streams. "The Varkan pilots are slow. Their reaction times are standard for their species. Our pilots are enhanced. We have been editing our DNA for focus and reflexes for 200 years, Noah. To them, we move too fast to see." Noah nodded. "Good, but don't get arrogant. Numbers still matter. If they focus all their fire on one spot, we will lose ships." "They are too panicked to focus," Grace observed. "Vrak is trying to maintain formation, but his officers are breaking rank." Up in space, Vrak was screaming at his crew. "Stop missing them. They are small. Hit them with flak cannons. Fill the space with metal." The Varkan ships fired thousands of small metal balls into space. It created a cloud of deadly debris. The human ships could not dodge all of them. One black fighter, piloted by a woman named Sarah, flew too close to a Varkan battleship. A cloud of flak shredded her left wing. Her ship spun out of control. "I'm hit," Sarah yelled over the radio, but her voice was calm. "Ejecting." Her canopy blew off and her seat rocketed away from the dying ship. A second later, her fighter exploded, taking a chunk of the Varkan battleship's shield with it. Vrak saw the explosion and felt a surge of hope. "I hit one. I can kill them." But then his hope turned to ice. The debris from the human fighter did not just float away. It began to glow. "What is happening?" Vrak whispered. The debris of the human ship was made of smart metal. When destroyed, it did not become junk. It became a weapon. The small pieces of the ship turned into tiny homing missiles. They swarmed the Varkan battleship that had shot Sarah down. They burrowed into the hull like angry termites. The battleship erupted from the inside out. Its hull cracked open, spilling air and fire into the vacuum. "They fight like parasites," Vrak growled. "They refuse to die." Suddenly, an alarm blared on the bridge of the Conqueror's Might. "Intruder alert. Sector 4? Internal breach." Vrak spun around. "Here, on my ship?" "How?" The elevator doors at the back of the bridge hissed open. There were no Varkan soldiers there. Instead, a tall figure in dark blue armor walked onto the bridge. The armor was sleek, smoother than anything Vrak had ever seen. It was covered in lights that shifted color. The face was a black visor that reflected Vrak's terrified expression. The guards raised their weapons. "Halt!" the chief of security yelled. The armored figure moved faster than the guards could see. It was a blur of blue and gray. There was a sound of a sharp crack, like a whip, and the chief of security fell to the floor. Unconscious, the other guards fired their plasma rifles, but the figure held up a hand. A small blue shield popped up in front of its palm. The plasma bolts hit the shield and splashed harmlessly to the side. The figure flicked its wrist and 3 small darts shot out. They hit the remaining guards in the neck. They dropped instantly. The bridge was silent except for the hum of the computers. The armored figure walked toward Vrak. The crew scrambled to get away. Pushing their chairs back in terror, Vrak drew his sidearm, a heavy pistol designed for close combat. He aimed it at the figure's head. "Stay back. I will kill you." The figure stopped a few meters away. It did not reach for a weapon. It just tilted its head to the side, studying Vrak. Then a voice came from the figure's armor. It was not a shout, but a calm, synthetic voice. You cannot kill what you do not understand, the voice said. VR, OK pulled the trigger. The laser shot hit the figure in the chest. There was a spark, but the figure did not even move. The smoke cleared, revealing no scratch on the blue armor. The material had absorbed the energy. Vrock fired again and again until the pistol clicked empty. The figure stood there, unbothered. Empty threats, the voice said. Just like your empire. Vrock dropped the pistol. He felt weak. He was the commander of the greatest fleet in the sector, but standing in front of this single human, he felt small. He realized then that the humans were not just better soldiers. They were something else. They were predators who had evolved specifically to hunt things like him. The figure took a step closer. Commander Vrock, I have a message for you. Vrock swallowed hard. What? Look out the window. The figure pointed to the large viewport at the front of the bridge. Vrock turned and looked. He saw his fleet. Once it was a wall of silver ships ready to conquer. Now it was a burning graveyard. The small black human ships were picking them apart one by one. There was no escape. The humans were not shooting wildly. They were dismantling the Varkan ships, piece by piece. Vrock fell to his knees. The weight of the failure crushed him. He had asked why no one had attacked Earth before. Now he knew. Earth was not a prize. It was a trap. And he was the fool who had walked into it. The armored figure turned and walked back toward the elevator. Do not try to leave this system, it said as the doors opened. We are not done with you yet. The doors closed and the figure was gone, leaving Vrock alone with his burning empire. The great ship known as the Conqueror's Might floated in the darkness, but it was no longer a symbol of power. It was a dying beast. Fires burned inside the hull, and the lights flickered on and off. Commander Vrock sat in his chair on the bridge, staring at the destruction of his fleet. He felt a heavy weight in his chest, a feeling he had not felt in many years. It was defeat. His once mighty ships were drifting aimlessly. Some were broken in half, venting gases into the cold vacuum. Others were simply dead, their systems fried by the strange human weapons. The small black human fighters swarmed around them like sharks, picking off the last of the Varkan resistance. There was no honor in this death. There was only silence. Vrock's tactical screen was dark, save for one blinking red light. It was an incoming transmission. It was an open channel, broadcasting on every frequency the Varkans used. He hesitated to answer. He knew who it was. Put it through, Vrock said, his voice barely a whisper. The main screen flickered and changed. The image of the burning stars was replaced by a face. It was a human female. Her skin was pale, her eyes dark, and her expression calm. She did not look like a monster. She looked like someone who worked in an office, organizing files. Behind her, Vrock could see a high-tech room. It was clean and bright, unlike his burning bridge. This was the enemy's command center. Commander Vrock of the Varkan Empire, the woman said. Her voice was clear and polite. I am Grace. We have been watching you. Vrock felt a spark of anger. You cowards. You fight like thieves in the night? You use tricks and poison. Grace smiled slightly, but there was no warmth in it. We fight to survive, Vrock. You came to our home with fire and chains. Did you expect us to stand in lines and die for your amusement? We are the Varkan Empire. Vrock shouted, standing up. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. You are just a primitive planet. You still do not understand, another voice said. A man walked into the view next to Grace. It was Noah. He looked tired, like a man who had carried a heavy load for too long. He looked directly into the camera, and Vrock felt a shiver go down his spine. You asked a question before you fired your first shot? Noah said. I know you did. Every commander who comes here asks the same thing. You looked at your archives and asked, why has nobody survived attacking Earth? Vrock stayed silent. He had asked that. He had wondered why the galaxy left this rich prize alone. You thought we were weak because we fight each other, Noah continued. You saw our wars, our division, and you thought we were broken? You were wrong. Noah stepped closer to the camera. We fight each other to stay sharp. We have been fighting for thousands of years. We have perfected the art of war. But we do not fight for resources. We do not fight for land. We fight because we are dangerous, Vrock. We are dangerous to everything around us. Grace spoke again. Look at your ships, Commander. Your metal is rusting. Your sensors are blind. Do you know why? Because Earth is not just a planet. It is a cage. Vrock sank back into his chair. A cage? A cage for us, Noah said. We trapped ourselves here. Long ago, we realized that if we left this star system, we would burn the galaxy down. We are too aggressive. We are too adaptable. So we built a shield. We hid our technology. We made everyone believe we were primitive so they would leave us alone. But you didn't leave us alone, Grace added. You got greedy. Vrock looked at the screen in horror. He realized the scale of his mistake. He had not invaded a defenseless civilization. He had kicked open the door to a maximum security prison containing the most violent killers in the galaxy. And now the killers were awake. The archives were empty, Vrock whispered. The records of previous attacks, they were deleted. They weren't deleted, Noah said. There were no survivors to write them. Every race that tried to take Earth was erased from history. We are very good at cleaning up. Vrock's heart hammered against his ribs. He looked around his bridge. His crew was hiding under consoles, crying or praying. They were soldiers, but they were not ready for this. They were used to fighting enemies who feared death. The humans did not fear death. They seemed to welcome it. What happens now? Vrock asked. He hated the fear in his voice, but he could not hide it. Grace looked at Noah. Noah nodded. We are not monsters, Vrock, Noah said. We do not kill for pleasure. We kill to protect ourselves. Your fleet is broken. You cannot hurt us anymore. Leave, Grace said simply. Take the ships that still fly and go. Never come back. If your empire enters this system again, we will not stop at your fleet. We will find your home worlds, and we will cleanse them. Vrock couldn't believe his ears. You would let us go? Consider it a warning, Noah said. Go back to your empire. Tell them what you saw. Tell them that the blue planet is not a treasure. It is a graveyard. Vrock sat in silence for a moment. He was a proud Varkan, but he was not stupid. He knew when he was beaten. He looked at the image of the man and woman on the screen. They looked so ordinary, yet they commanded the power to destroy him without blinking. I will go, Vrock said. Good, Noah said. But remember this. Your navigation computers have been wiped. Your weapons are disabled. You will leave, but we will be watching you every step of the way. Do not try to signal for help. Do not try to stop. Just run. The screen went black. The transmission ended. Vrock sat in the dark for a long time. He listened to the groaning metal of his ship. He looked at the debris of his fleet floating in the starlight. He thought about the stories he would have to tell the Emperor. He thought about the fear he would carry for the rest of his life. Helmsman, Vrock said, his voice sounding old and tired. A young officer crawled out from under a console. Yes, Commander? Set a course for home, Vrock ordered. Maximum speed. Do not look back. And the ground troops, sir? The officer asked. What about them? Vrock closed his eyes. He thought about the green mist and the dissolving. Metal, they are already gone, he said softly. The Conqueror's might turned slowly in the void. Its engines sputtered and coughed, but they caught hold. The ship began to move, limping away from the blue planet. Behind it, the remaining Varkan ships followed, forming a ragged line of defeat. High in the bunker. Noah and Grace watched the red dots on the holographic map move away from Earth. They are leaving, Grace said. Should we target their engines? Make sure they can't come back? Noah shook his head. No, let them go. Fear is a better weapon than a gun. If we destroy them, they become martyrs. If we let them go, they become ghost stories. Grace turned to him. Do you think they will listen? Do you think the Empire will stay away? For a while, Noah said. They will be afraid. They will tell others, but someone else will come. There's always someone greedy enough. Then we will be ready, Grace said, Noah sighed and walked over to a window in the bunker. It was not a real window, but a screen showing the fake sky they projected. We are always ready. That is the curse of humanity. We are always waiting for the next war. He looked at the list of names on the wall next to him. It was a long list of alien races that had tried to attack Earth over the centuries. The Varkans were just the latest name on the list. We asked the wrong question, Noah said, repeating Vrock's thought. They asked why nobody survives attacking Earth. What is the answer? Grace asked. Noah looked at her, his eyes hard. The answer is that nobody survives because we are not the prey. We are the cage. And we are the lock. He turned back to the screen. The Varkan ships were tiny specks now, vanishing into the deep dark. The Earth was safe again, but the sleep was over. The guns were out. The silence of the planet was broken. Reset the defenses, Noah ordered. Get the camouflage fields back up. I want the planet to look primitive again by morning. Understood, Grace said. The machines hummed back to life. The great shields began to fade. The orbital weapons platforms turned invisible. The green mist settled back into the ground. Earth went back to sleep. But Noah and Grace knew the truth. It was a fitful sleep. And next time, the hunter might not be so lucky to escape. The remains of the Varkan fleet moved slowly through the empty darkness between stars. They were no longer the proud silver swarm that had arrived days ago. The ships were scorched, pitted, and silent. They dragged broken pieces of hull behind them like wounded animals dragging their legs. Inside the Conqueror's might, the lights were dimmed to save power. The air smelled of burnt plastic and fear. Commander Vrock sat in his chair, staring at the star map. The fastest route home went through a region of space known as the Kelton Corridor. It was a busy trade route used by many races. Usually Vrock would look forward to seeing other ships. He would fly his flag high and demand respect. But now he felt only shame. He looked at the nav computer. It was blank. The humans had not just destroyed his weapons. They had wiped the memory of the ship. Vrock had to steer using the oldest tools paper charts and his own eyes. It was humiliating for a high-tech commander. As his ship drifted closer to the trade route, Vrock saw a large alien station floating near a gas giant. It was a marketplace where different races met to trade goods and information. He knew he should avoid it. He knew his empire would be angry to see him in this state. But he needed fuel. And he needed to warn them. As his broken ship approached the station, Vrock saw other ships moving out of the way. They were not moving to make room for a superior officer. They were moving to get a look at the disaster. He could see the crews of other ships looking out of their viewports, pointing at the once great Varkan dreadnought. Open a channel to the station, Vrock told his communication officer. I must speak to the council. Commander, the station is hailing us, the officer said. They are demanding to know what happened. They said they detected high-energy readings from our sector. Vrock took a deep breath. Let them see, he said. Show them. He stood up and walked to the main view screen. He did not smooth his uniform. He did not try to hide the fear in his eyes. He activated the video feed on the screen. The face of an alien council member appeared. The alien had 3 eyes and purple skin. He looked annoyed at first, but as he saw Vrock's face, the annoyance turned to shock. Commander Vrock? The council member asked. Your fleet. It is ruined. Did you encounter a new empire? Did the Zorg attack you? Vrock shook his head slowly. No, Vrock said, his voice raspy. We attacked Earth. The station went silent. The council member leaned closer to the camera. Earth, the primitive world? The Type 0.7 planet? They are not Type 0.7, Vrock said. That is a lie? A trap. He felt his hands shaking, so he clasped them behind his back. We were destroyed. Not by an army, but by the planet itself. He began to tell the story. He spoke of the fog that ate metal. He spoke of the ships that moved like thoughts. He spoke of the man and woman in the bunker who looked at him not as an equal, but as a bug. He told them everything. The humans let us go, Vrock finished. They did not kill us because they are merciful. They let us go because we are the message. The council member looked skeptical. You are afraid of primitives? Perhaps you are just incompetent, Vrock. Vrock reached into his pocket and pulled out a small data chip. The human in the blue armor had left it for him. Put this on your main screen, Vrock ordered. Look at the recording. The station hesitated, then the screen changed. It showed a view of the solar system. But it wasn't normal. It showed the thousands of hidden weapon platforms that orbited the sun. It showed the massive fleets cloaked in the asteroid belt. It showed the power of a world that pretended to be weak. The recording zoomed in on a single human ship. On its hull, in plain text, was a message written in every galactic language. It said, "Keep out, the zoo is open." The council on the station turned pale. The alien ships nearby began to back away, putting more distance between themselves and the Varkan wrecks. They understood now. The Varkans had not lost a battle. They had survived an execution. The quarantine zone, the council member whispered. It was never a natural phenomenon. It was a warning. Tell everyone, Vrock said. Tell the Zorg, the Thargs, and the Krylorians. Do not go there. Do not look at the blue planet. Let them sleep. The transmission ended. Vrock ordered his pilot to engage the engines and push on toward home. They left the station behind, leaving the terrified traders to spread the news. The story would travel faster than light. The legend of Earth would grow. Meanwhile, on the surface of the blue planet, the sun was setting. The sky turned orange and pink over the ruins of an old city. Noah stood on a grassy hill, looking up at the stars. The air was cool and smelled of pine trees. It was peaceful. Grace walked up the hill to join him. She carried 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Noah. Did they leave? She asked. They are gone, Noah said, taking a sip of the hot drink. Vrock is heading home with his tail between his legs. By this time tomorrow, every race in the quadrant will know what happened here. Grace looked up at the sky. Will they stay away? For a while, Noah said. Fear works for a few generations. But eventually they forget. They get greedy again. They will see a green planet and think it is easy to take. So we wait, Grace said. Yes, Noah said. We wait. Noah looked around the hill. To anyone else, it was just a nice place to watch the sunset. But Noah knew the truth. Beneath the grass he stood on, there was a bunker 10 miles deep. Inside that bunker were weapons that could crack planets. The trees around them were genetically modified to detect alien DNA and release poison. The birds in the sky carried tiny cameras that watched for ships in orbit. It was a paradise built on top of a loaded gun. Do you ever wish we could just be normal? Grace asked softly. Just a simple planet without the traps? Noah thought about it. He thought about the Varkans, the Zorg, and all the others who had tried to enslave them. We tried that once, Noah said. Thousands of years ago. We were peaceful. We welcomed strangers. They enslaved us for 500 years. We learned our lesson. Peace is a luxury we can't afford. He finished his coffee and threw the cup into a small trash can. Status report? Noah asked, his voice becoming professional again. The camouflage fields are back online, Grace said, checking her tablet. The orbital platforms are invisible again. The satellites are broadcasting fake static signals. To the rest of the galaxy, we are just a bunch of primitive people fighting with sticks and rocks. Good, Noah said. Let them think that. He looked back at the stars. One of those stars was Vrock's sun. The Varkans were telling their story right now. They were telling of the monsters on Earth. They were telling of the fog, the ghosts, and the cage. Let's go back inside, Noah said. I have to write the update for the High Council. We need to prepare the next layer of defense. If the Varkans could almost break through, then a stronger empire might actually try. Grace nodded. What should we tell the people on the surface? They saw the lights in the sky? Tell them it was a meteor shower, Noah said. Tell them it was a strange weather event. Tell them anything but the truth. They walked down the hill toward a small wooden shed. To a passerby, it looked like a gardening shed. But when Noah opened the door, there was no gardening equipment. There was a high-speed elevator. They stepped inside and the doors closed. As they descended into the earth, the weight of their response